In this video, I'm going to talk about the strategies on how to attract quality caregivers without having to pay more in hourly wages. Yeah, my name is Scott McKenzie, and I am the owner of Golden Age Companions, a non-medical home care agency based in Irvine, California. We have been in business since 2011 and have generated over $8 million of total revenue. I also have a company called Home Care Agency Blueprint, which is a coaching company, and that is designed to help you start, run, operate, and grow your very own home care business. And it is not a franchise. It's a coaching company coupled with a course, and that helps you start and run and operate your own home care business. So jumping in here, when it comes to hiring the proper caregivers and setting the pay structure, it's really important to acknowledge how the culture is. The first thing I'll talk about is the culture with your home care agency. It's coming back to remembering that the caregivers are the kind of like lifeline of your agency. They are the key, frontline people that are going out and helping your families. So they're the people that are actually going in the homes, taking care of the seniors or, the people with disabilities. And you want to have a great culture. And the couple ways of doing that are having even events. So like, for example, you could do training events either once a month or once a quarter, even once every few weeks. I think that's pushing it though. I think every 30 to 45, 60 days would be enough, but just having gatherings to really, bring in that camaraderie of the caregivers, because, I know this sounds obvious, but remember, when you're sending that one caregiver out to that one client's home, that's all their world is. That's all they know, right? They know that they're going to provide the care for that family, but that's all they know. They go provide the care, they do their job, then they go back home. And then the next day they might return to that shift. Some caregivers are working with multiple agencies. So maybe they're working with another client, but all they know in their world is that they're going off to that client's home and taking care of them. And then they're essentially reporting to you as the home care agency. So to tie into that culture is really important, to let them know that you appreciate them. It doesn't have to be always holding these major events. That's nice to bring in the, kind of camaraderie so they know what, who their other coworkers are. But like even just like simple, like a phone call from the owner, or even if as you get bigger, I know, you may not have as much time to do that, but like even sending like a thank you gift card every once in a while, like a Starbucks card, or even just a note. It doesn't have to be a card, but just things that you can show your caregiver that you appreciate them can really create quality culture. And, it's a relationship-based business. So especially like, in the first few years of my business, I personally knew every single caregiver. They had my cell phone number, and I had a very good rapport. If there's ever any issues that showed up, it was already kind of like solved immediately once they spoke to me, because oftentimes they just want to communicate. They want to hear what you have to say about the situation they're going through, and you can provide advice and whatnot if there's something happening in the home. So that's important. And then, you're probably thinking, well, what does this have to do with the caregiver wages? It has to do a lot, because you want to be sure that if you have quality culture, that it's just like anything. It's any great company on this planet. Quality culture, people are willing to work for the company and not, take as high of wages. Starbucks, for example, is an amazing example. I only know because firsthand too, because I worked there. I worked there from 2006 to 2011, and they had an amazing culture. They paid at the time even like around minimum wage, but I loved their culture. They had the people, I liked working there. I liked the people that I worked with, for the most part. Like they really took care of the employees. They had, medical benefits and all kinds of good stuff. They had a 401k plan. They had even stock benefits. They had all kinds of good stuff there. So that's why I stayed there. And I think a lot of people go work at Starbucks because of that. They have just a great culture. So when it comes to your home care agency, I know it's not Starbucks, it's not the exact same thing, but just showing appreciation and letting the caregiver know that you really appreciate the quality work they're doing is important. And then that's gonna, flow into, you're not gonna have to be paying them a lot more per hour. So what I highly recommend is pay a little more than what your competitors are paying if you can, and say it's even $1 or $2 more per hour. And then you also want to kind of bake that into what your retail prices are. And generally you want to have on the low end a 40% margin, on the higher end 55%. So for example, if you're charging your client 40 an hour, 50% would be you're paying the caregiver 20. Now, if you feel like that suffices and most of your competition's paying 17, 18 an hour, then 20 an hour is a great rate. Now, keep in mind, on my home care agency blueprint program, we help you decide on how to structure this for your own home care business. So if you are interested in booking a call with me directly, there's a link in the description below and we can talk about that. So I could talk about what our program looks like. And so, yeah, back to what the hourly wages, that's something that making sure that you have just like that solid culture. And then, benefits, as far as like as you grow, some states require that you have to have medical benefits and whatnot, but even having some type of like appreciation parties and just making sure that your caregivers know that there's like a good culture, it goes just miles. And then they're willing to say like, hey, like I actually like working with your agency over others. So remember, these caregivers can go work for all these different agencies at the same time. And I know at Golden Age Companions, often a lot of the caregivers choose to work with us because they like the culture. They know me. They know that we're a smaller company and they like that. They like that we're more like that boutique brand and we're not this big franchise. So that's something that I know our caregivers really appreciate. Now, the other thing is, besides the whole culture thing, is the level of care on the case. So if you have a companion case, which is just basic personal care, most likely you're not going to be charging $40 an hour, because that's, at least in March of 2024, that's on the high end of hourly wages or hourly retail rates for home care. So, as far as like a companion case, maybe you're charging $35 an hour and you could pay that caregiver $17 because it's a basic job. Now, if your case requires transferring, lifting, hygiene assistance, and all this other stuff, and you're wanting to pay that caregiver $17 an hour, and maybe you did quote the case $35, well, that's on you. That's on your staff for doing that. So make sure that you charge enough and you're charging a good amount where you can be able to pay your caregiver properly, because it's going to not only be easier to retain caregivers, but it'll be easier to recruit them as well. So for a more intense case like that requires a lot more work, then that would be pushing closer to say 20 an hour. I'm just giving like broad examples here. So I'm not telling you to go out and charge these exact rates and pay exact rates of what I'm saying on the video. I'm just giving you some examples. So what I will say though is what I've seen across the board is like from a companion case to like a more intense case, it's basically a $3 to $4 range. That's how I've experienced it. That's how I see it. So that's kind of like a good barometer. And then you want to be sure that you're just charging the client enough. And there are times where like there might be a full-time case that could be 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, and you'd be bringing on 2 caregivers on that case. So the other thing to think about is there's overtime involved. So, like if there's overtime after that, say 8-hour range, I'm going to say that because I know California, it's actually over 9 in the caregiving world, but across the board, it's generally over 8 hours. And then that caregiver is getting 4 hours of overtime. So when you're offering a shift that's a 12-hour shift to a caregiver, instead of saying it's 17 an hour, I've always said, I do the math. It's 17 an hour times, say, 8 hours, and then the time and a half that they get on those 4 hours. So the actual shift is like closer to $200 a shift than saying it's 17 an hour. So I've actually like sold shifts, meaning like I've been able to convince caregivers to go on cases because they don't think in that realm of like, oh, well, it's actually a really good pay to go on that 12-hour shift, because they don't think about the overtime that they're getting, those whatever it comes out to, 28 or 30 an hour or something. So that's like another key tip. But the biggest takeaway is culture. Make sure that your culture is great, you're taking care of your caregivers, and that you're pricing properly, you're quoting proper rates, you're paying your caregivers proper. You don't want to be paying a caregiver like minimum pay for a case that is hospice and bedridden and a lot more intense, because if they do take it, they might be disgruntled and be like, I don't really want to be doing this, I'm not getting paid that much, type of thing. So those are just all kinds of things to think about. So that's what I have for you guys today. And if you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I appreciate you coming along. Now, we're also doing weekly webinars. So it's as of right now, it's on Fridays. We'll be adjusting the days, but there will be weekly webinars. That link is in the description below. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.